Who wouldn't want a smoothie that looks like a unicorn or a rainbow? Well, it's very easy. All you need is 60 millilitres of milk in a pot on the stove and 180 millilitres of whipping cream. And stir away. Heat it till it starts to bubble. Then add 1 tablespoon of gelatin and mix that in nicely. 2 tablespoons of chia seeds will then go in, and we're going to keep stirring as the mixture bubbles away and starts to thicken. Then we can turn the heat off and pour that into our serving glass. We're going to fill half of our glass and then get 150 grams of frozen banana, 50 grams of yogurt, 50 grams of coconut, and whiz that away in the blender until smooth. So all you need is 3 ingredients for this part, and then that is going to go into our serving glass on top of the chia seed mixture. And why not squirt a bit of whipping cream on top? Make it colourful. Now we're going to add our decorations, some fondant ears and a horn. Of course, it's a unicorn. Now add 150 grams of banana, 50 grams of yogurt and all different types of fruit. Blueberry, butterfly pea, matcha, frozen pineapple, frozen orange, strawberry. And one by one, blend those away to produce absolutely beautiful colours. We are going to layer these colours in our serving glass for a beautiful rainbow smoothie. And to top it all off, let's add some whipping cream. We've chosen pink because we think it looks absolutely dandy. And we're going to add a few strawberries and some sprinkles for a finishing touch. There you have a rainbow smoothie and a unicorn smoothie. What more would you want in life? Go on, have a sip. Experience the splash of a fresh, zesty orange with a perfect sugar rush at the same time with this real orange cake. All you need is whipped cream, orange pulp and a soft honey cake. Nyam Nyam will show you how to whip up this artisanal dessert with simple to follow steps. Let's get started. All you need is 250 grams of cake mix, 3 eggs, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 50 millilitres of milk, 30 millilitres of oil, and whisk it together. Then we add 10 grams of honey. Mix that in nicely. And we're ready to pour it into our baking tin. We're using a little bit of wax paper at the bottom there just to help prevent sticking. Now that deliciousness goes in the oven for 30 minutes at 180 degrees. Take it out of the oven when it's ready, put it on a baking tray, and we're going to slice it into 3 equal layers. Now from these layers we're going to do cutouts. We're going to use 2 different size cookie cutters, circle shaped, one slightly bigger than the other. Remove the excess cake. These are going to go inside our orange. Now we're going to cut the end off our orange. Be very careful not to chop your fingers off. And we're going to scoop out the inside. Be a little bit patient with this part of the process. Removing the entire pulp, and there we have it. Now with another orange we're going to just take a few slices out of that one. Now add 150 millilitres of whipping cream, 30 millilitres of sweetened condensed milk to a bowl and whisk it till light and fluffy. There we have our cream filling. It goes into a food piping bag, ready to fill our orange shell. So whipped cream goes in first. Now on top of that we're going to add one of our little honey cake slices. Then why don't we add some more whipped cream on top of that? And how about a few pieces of orange? Bit of freshness in there. Bit more whipped cream. And a slice of honey cake. Maybe the smaller slice would fit better there. More whipped cream. And a nice slice of orange to seal it all off. A beautiful finishing touch. Squish it in there, making sure it's nice and snug. Delicious. Now we can just coat that with a little layer of honey using a brush. And why not sprinkle some icing sugar on top for that extra sweetness with our zesty orange and maybe even a sprig of mint. And it's ready to serve. Let's have a slice then. Nyam Nyam brings you an easy to make, no bake, triple layer chocolate cheesecake with some easy ingredients. This rich and creamy cheesecake is fully loaded with chocolate ganache, cocoa powder and pistachios. Let's get started. All you need is 120 grams of dark chocolate cut into pieces. Melt that slightly in a bowl and add 50 millilitres of heavy cream. Mix that together and we have our chocolate ganache. Put that aside. Now we add 200 grams of cream cheese to a mixing bowl with 15 grams of sugar, 30 millilitres of milk. Whisk that away. We gradually add ingredients and give it a mix each time. Now we're going to add half a tablespoon of lemon juice and 5 grams of melted gelatin. Give it another mix, making sure it's a smooth-like consistency, and then add 120 millilitres of heavy cream and mix once again. Perfect. Now we have our main cream cheese mixture. And for the first layer, we're going to add 185 grams of cream cheese batter. We're going to pour that straight into our baking tin, which has been coated in baking paper to make sure that the cheesecake doesn't stick. Smooth that over. Make sure to fill all the corners and then refrigerate for 15 minutes. Now in a clean bowl, we're going to add 130 grams of the cream cheese batter with 60 grams of chocolate ganache. Stir it until it becomes a light brown colour. This is going to make our second layer. So we're going to pour this on top of our white cheese layer and smooth it out so it's nice and even. Then we're going to put it back in the fridge for another 15 minutes. In a clean bowl, get 115 grams of cream cheese batter and 100 grams of chocolate ganache. Stir it together, making a dark brown colour this time. This is going to be poured on top of our already set 2-layered cheesecake and smooth it over as usual. Now we just refrigerate that for 15 minutes, and meanwhile we're going to get a pot and add 50 grams of sugar, 20 grams of cocoa powder and give it a whisk. We're going to also add 20 millilitres of water, 140 millilitres of heavy cream. Turn on the heat to a medium flame and stir away whilst it's heating on the stove. Heat it until it starts to bubble away and then you can turn the heat off. Add 60 grams of chocolate to that mixture, 2 grams of gelatin, and whisk it away until the chocolate has melted and the gelatin is nicely mixed in. Now our cheesecake is ready. Take the baking tray away and remove the baking paper, leaving a smooth layer, and pour on our cooled chocolate ganache mixture. Now make sure you do this over a baking tray. Let the chocolate ganache mixture drip down. Now on top of that, we're going to put a thin strip of paper across the middle of the cake and sprinkle cocoa powder over the entire surface of the cake. When we've done that, we can remove our strip very carefully and add our pistachios to the middle of the cake. It's the small things that make all the difference. So if you want a professional looking and absolutely delicious triple layer chocolate cheesecake without any baking, then this is the recipe for you. Cheese and chocolate. What more could you want? Nyam Nyam brings you an easy to make 2-ingredient chocolate truffle recipe. Indulgent, melt in your mouth chocolate truffles made from ganache, a mixture of condensed milk and cocoa powder. It needs no baking or cooking, so let's get started. All you need is a glass bowl with 320 grams of condensed milk. Stick that in the microwave for 30 seconds. We're going to add 80 grams of cocoa powder to that, sprinkling it in through a sieve so that we get a nice smooth mixture once it's all stirred together. Now this is going to be poured into a container which is coated in cling film. It's very important that with our 2 ingredients we choose the best quality ingredients. This will make a huge difference to the flavour. Now once that's all in, We're going to stick that in the refrigerator for 1 hour. Meanwhile, get our glass bowl, add 200 grams of condensed milk this time, stick it in the microwave for 30 seconds, and 100 grams of cocoa powder is going into this one. So we can play around with the consistency of our truffles if we want it to be slightly gooey in the middle or we want it to be a bit firmer. We're going to add this in gradually, a bit at a time. This mixture is going to be a lot thicker than the last one, so no need to refrigerate this one. I'm going to stir that in until it's a sort of dough-like consistency. You can, of course, use a big sieve. Now, once this is mixed together, we're going to put it on some cling film, which has been laid out on a chopping board. We're going to fold that over and squish it down. Put that aside and sprinkle some more cocoa powder onto our chopping board. Out comes our ganache. We're going to stick that onto the cocoa powder and then sprinkle some more over the top. Cocoa powder is our best friend in this recipe, so we're going to slice that into pieces. And now it's time to roll it up into little balls. We recommend wearing food preparation gloves for this part of the recipe, as it can get rather messy. Now, why not coat that with some more cocoa powder, making sure it's completely covered before we put it on our serving plate. Absolutely beautiful. Now we're going to coat our chopping board in another layer of cocoa powder and remove our previous ganache from the refrigerator. Easy to peel off the cling film a bit at a time whilst adding a sprinkle of cocoa powder on top. We can be generous with this. Now we're going to slice this into squares. Pick them up one by one and then just squish the sides, making sure it's a perfect square shape, and coat that in cocoa powder, ready for our serving plate. Now you can just use cocoa powder, or you can try different things. You can try sprinkles, hundreds and thousands, even chocolate shavings for an absolutely beautiful and simple dessert. Look at that. Let's pour our heart into creating this beautiful cookie and cream heart cake with simple to follow steps using cookies, meringue, macaroons and buttercream. Nyam Nyam will help you bake this perfect treat for your loved one. Let's get started. All you need is 200 grams of butter, 100 grams of icing sugar and half a teaspoon of salt. Mix together in a mixing bowl. Add 2 egg yolks and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Now it's time to add our flour, 300 grams of that, adding half first, whisking it in with an electric whisk, then adding our second half, this time just gently mixing it with a spoon or a spatula to form our cookie dough. That cookie dough is going to go on a floured chopping board. We're going to squish it around a bit to firm it up in the flour and then flatten it out into a square shape and throw a bit more flour on top. Rolling it out into a thin layer, we're going to cut around our heart shape, a giant heart shape, using a pizza cutter. And why not have some mini hearts too for decorations? Using a heart cookie cutter, we're going to cut out several small hearts along the bottom. Remove the excess cookie dough. Now it's ready to go on our baking tray. Don't forget to put the layer of baking paper on there so it doesn't stick. Our little hearts alongside our big heart, and use a fork to prick little holes all over the surface of our large heart. And cook that at 160 degrees for 20 minutes. While that's cooking away, we get 30 grams of egg white and whisk it in a bowl. Add 100 grams of sugar, half at a time. An electric whisk is highly recommended for this part of the process as it makes things a lot quicker. We've got to whisk it a lot to get our beautiful meringue-like mixture. We're going to put that into 2 bowls, half-half, and add food colouring. We're adding pink food colouring, more in one than in the other, so that we get 2 different shades of pink. We're going to use this for our decorations later. We're going to put it into piping bags, so you can just use an ordinary food bag and stick a piping nozzle on the end of that if you cut the end off. That way it's much easier to disperse. Now we have a very special type of baking paper here. It actually has little circles marked out for us, so we can make sure that we get all our baby meringues the same size. But don't worry if you don't have that, an ordinary piece of baking paper will do. Stick those in the oven at 90 degrees for 1 hour. Meanwhile, let's decorate our little baby cookies using our pale pink and medium pink meringue. Now for our large cookie, we're going to cover it in buttercream icing. Again, you could use a food piping bag to put that all over the surface of your cookie and get another cookie and then layer it again, just like a cake. Now add our meringues and our royal icing cookies and our macaroons and some marshmallows. Why not some roses? A work of art. It's absolutely beautiful. In fact, it looks too good to eat. Well, almost.